Satoshi and I had what? All of my well-planned actions throughout the day turned out to have been nothing more than a reenactment of what Satoshi had done. Satoshi, had he really been in the same situation as I was now? The friends he had gotten along with had changed suddenly and for no reason, at least none that I had noticed, planned to kill him? Then, fearing for his life as I am, he got a bat to protect himself and carried it around every day to practice his swing. And then, one day, suddenly, he transferred. My blood went cold, causing a prickling sensation to course through my veins. Starting near my heart, it radiated outwards from the top of my head to the soles of my feet, chilling every part of me without recourse. What did he mean? What did she mean by transfer? What did she mean by transfer? Was Satoshi still at whatever he transferred to? Was he the only one who would have been able to understand me? Would he be able to tell me why it ended up all like this? More importantly, where did he transfer to? What did she mean by transfer? What did she mean by transfer? Many of these questions will not be answered. Before I knew it, I was at my front door. The frigid knob was hard to turn. Was nobody home? It wasn't that odd of an occurrence. I reached into my pocket and pulled out the single key attached to my fur seal keychain. Can't forget that fur seal keychain at all. Led into many problems. I stepped into the entryway just as I was about to take off my shoes. A chill ran down my spine. Someone had entered right behind me, like a classmate messing around, standing right up against my back. You're kidding, right? It had to be my imagination. Logically speaking, it was impossible for someone to be able to hide their presence within my personal space all the way through the door. But there was undoubtedly someone behind me. Hey now, Keiichi. How do you know they're there even though they're behind you? Because I could hear the sound of flowing hair. There's no other reason. I hear that sound. That was the presence. Because I could hear them blinking. Keiichi Maibara, there's no way you could hear that. Seriously, imagine if you could hear people blinking. That would be a horrible. That would be horrible. Like you'd just be able to hear yourself blink, wouldn't you? It was mostly instinct than anything else that was warning me of that presence. Common sense was telling me that it was just my imagination. It was just my imagination. There was nobody behind me. I began to erase the mental image of an eerie figure standing behind me. But at the same time, I asked myself, if there was nobody, then what was I feeling? As an uncomfortable sensation crawled up my spine. Actually, wouldn't it be better if there was somebody there? If there was nobody there when you turned around, would you be able to accept that? I'd be able to answer all these questions just by looking behind me, but I didn't have enough courage to do even that simple task. Alright, I could try speaking to them. The person behind me might answer me. It was a random thought. I didn't care how I went about it, just as long as I didn't have to turn around. Wait, this paranoia started to reach its climax, isn't it? If I had calmed down and thought about it, I would have known that wouldn't have resolved anything. Who is it? I spoke in such a coarse, broken voice that I couldn't believe it was my own. I could almost feel them contemplating their response. I felt it. There's no way I should be able to do that. Calm down, Keiichi. It's all in your head. That time, I was certain I heard it. As if hesitantly trying to answer my inquiry, I was certain I could hear the sound of somebody inhaling. I heard it. I heard it. I heard it clearly. It was a girl. A young girl. I didn't know who, but a tiny speck of courage in me, however reckless it was, inspired a primal yet fitting solution to this current predicament: a scream. All the force of my body released from my lungs and through my throat, ceasing all thought processes in my head. Suppressing all my thoughts and emotions, I began to collapse like a house of cards, somehow managing to twist my body and look back as I did so. It was definitely there. Right there. Somebody was there. Until the moment I turned around, until I brought the area behind me into my field of vision, they were definitely there. Falling face up, my eyes traced the remnants of the presence suspended in the empty space. It couldn't be. They were invisible. They looked like they were there, but were they actually still standing there? As I screamed, all the emotions I was holding back burst free in a violent wave. However, I was decidedly calm as my emotional dam collapsed. The turbulent wave of pent-up emotions was skillfully diverted into a torrent of aggression. That emotion was definitely required to extricate myself from the bizarre situation happening right in front of me. In my state of heightened lucidity, I entrusted my body to the fury. The metal bat held firm in my right hand, as if drawn there by a magnet. A mid-level sweep would be the hardest attack to dodge. I remember reading something like that from a book about swordsmanship or something. What a random book to read. I brandished my will to fight. The after image of that amalgamation of metal flashed as it swung from left to right, beating against the entryway. Who do we? Okay, so we hit no one, okay. The bat slammed into the right wall, the tip rebounded violently. Very calmly, I transferred the force of the rebound into a sweep to the left. Are we just wrecking the entryway now, aren't we? The door of the shoe cupboard was split into pieces. Those two swings whiffed through empty space, but they seemed to have a great psychological impact on the enemy. I could feel the panic emanating from that space. The attack wasn't the only thing required. I extracted the bat from the cupboard. It was embedded in and screamed as I spun my entire body around in a large arc. My scream shook the air, imbuing my furious swing into more destructive power. Wait, he's completely wrecking this up, isn't he? Without mercy or restraint, my violent strike, with a certain fatal force behind it, shattered the top of the cupboard. None of my attacks struck the enemy, but my ferocity had certainly seemed to impact them. Breathing heavily, my entire body soaked in sweat, the invisible enemy there, but not there, dispersed. When I was certain that the enemy had retreated, I locked the front door and latched the chain. No way. Had it only feigned retreat and now was inside my house? Once again, I channeled my aggression and searched the house for the presence, but it was gone. I had succeeded in fending it off. At that moment, the tension drained from my body and I let out a deep sigh of relief. But he's really draining himself now, isn't he? All of the emotions I'd been holding back chaotically merged together and began to flood out. A what the hell? A hodgepodge of fear, accomplishment and disbelief all mixed together and began to flow through my body. Unable to deal with each individual feeling, I beat them all back with the strongest exhaustion. Even in this moment, I remained composed. After checking all the doors throughout the house were locked, I went up to my room on the second floor and closed the curtains. I straightened my back and tilted my head back a little. After clearing my mind of all idle thoughts, I managed to calm down even more. What was that at the front door? There was definitely something there. Thinking about it, maybe it was just an apparition I dreamt up in my confused state, but I really didn't think that was the case. Calm down, Keiichi Maibara. Compose yourself. No matter how calmly I thought about it, what just happened wasn't a figment of my imagination. It was obviously a supernatural phenomenon, and without a doubt, something was behind me. It wasn't some sort of illusion I saw amidst my confusion and disorientation. Proof? I had just had one piece. When I asked who is it, they inhaled as if they were about to answer. That sound had clearly reached my ears. The situation I was in right now was still unclear. Either I had been possessed by the supernatural being known as Oyashiro-sama's curse, or this was a ruse by the villagers who believed it and were imitating it. Either way, their motives were unclear. Well, if you're getting possessed by Oyashiro-sama, it's kind of obvious what the motive is. You done messed up with the village. If it's the villagers, well, they're being horrible, horrible people. The roundabout way it had been done was also still a mystery. If it was perpetrated by humans, that would mean admitting it was Rena and the rest of them doing it, but it would be solvable. Oshi-san and the rest of the police would surely arrest my enemy, but if it was a manifestation of Oyashiro-sama's curse, I wonder what would happen. Oshi-san very clearly declared that curses didn't exist. At that time, those words were pretty dependable, but as things were now, with the rising possibility that the perpetrators were not human, he suddenly seemed quite unreliable. If I told Oshi-san this was the work of Oyashiro-sama's curse, what would happen? I could imagine his reaction, but it would go without question that a void would expand rapidly between myself and Oshi-san. With me having so few allies to begin with, and not being able to confidently declare whether or not this was a curse or not, there was no merit in doing that. I'd better keep the facts of what just happened at the doorway to myself, and fix the shoe cupboard, the one that you completely wrecked. Because your parents will get your case about that as well. It would be better if I didn't add what happened here to the memo behind the clock. There was still the ever so slight possibility that I was actually confused when I thought I was composed, and I was just going berserk in the entryway. I'm going with that. I'll go with that possibility. I wonder how wonderful would that be if how wonderful would that be if that was really what happened? I would be able to refute Oyashiro-sama's curse. But if I denied Oyashiro-sama's curse, then that would mean admitting that Ren and the rest were perpetrators. If I said that Ren and the rest weren't the perpetrators, then that would mean believing in Oyashiro-sama's curse. But by denying both of these, I would be admitting that I myself was losing it. That isn't happening. That third option. The three options from which I couldn't choose became a triumvirate of sorts. They mixed together and formed a whirlpool in my mind, making my head spin. Once again, I straightened myself and leaned my head back slightly to cool myself down. Calm down, Keiichi. Accept what has actually happened as reality. Stop thinking of anything more than that. But I couldn't help but think of it. How wonderful it would be if it turned out I was delirious and everything up to now was just a figment of my imagination. Oyashiro-sama's curse wouldn't exist, and I would still be bestest buddies with Rena and the rest. Yeah, sure, after you have a minor chaotic episode, you're still best friends. Huzzah. I would have to be crazy. That was the first time in my life I'd ever wished for such a thing. What a horrible outburst.